Happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome in to The Point. Hope you all had a great week. Was a little busy over here, but back with you all this morning. It's a Saturday. It's beautiful outside. The summer's almost over, which is sad. But it also means that football is on the horizon. And the NFL actually starts a week from Thursday, September 5th. So starting tomorrow morning, on the podcast, I will be previewing the AFC East and NFC East, the divisions, in one podcast. We'll be doing three more to get through the North, getting through the South. You know the deal. Going through the AFC and NFC West. So that's all forthcoming in the next week and change. Those will all be coming your way. Those podcasts, I love doing the research for them. Helps me prepare for the season. We'll also be doing a briefer college football preview later this week, which technically college football begins this afternoon in Dublin, Ireland, because nothing screams college football like Dublin, Ireland, like Guinness at 9:30 in the morning with Florida State, the Seminoles, playing Georgia Tech, the Yellow Jackets, in Dublin. I don't care where the game is. I don't care who's playing. Notre Dame played Navy last year. This is a better game. Does it make much sense for Florida State to be playing in Dublin? Not really, but I'm all for it. If I can get a college football game on August 24th on a Saturday afternoon, there's a country concert today, not that far away. A lot of people are going. I could give a rat's ass about that country concert. Jason Aldean played last night. That's the headliner. I didn't go, unfortunately, because he's a stud and he's one of my favorite country musicians. But Luke Combs or whoever's playing tonight, have fun. I'm sure he's fine. I'm sure he'll be great. But I'd rather watch a college football game by myself in my apartment. And that might sound sad to you, and it probably is. But I can't wait to watch it. That's coming up this afternoon. For former Oregon State quarterback DJ Ugalele is now a Florida State quarterback. Oh, what a transfer portal. Working, new conferences. We'll talk about that later in the week, but I will be watching this afternoon. There's also the finale to the NFL preseason this weekend. There's still some jobs up for grabs. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. I titled today's episode, "The NHL Becoming the NBA?" And here's why I wrote that as a title. In the past 6-7 months, there have been multiple deals in the NHL where players have demanded things. We demand a trade. I'm not going to sign with you. And in the old days of sports, players had no say. Other than Eric Lindros, who held the power, but nobody really, hopped on the moving train of, you know what? If I don't want to go someplace, I don't have to. And Eric Lindros was a trailblazer. Whether you like him or you dislike him is really irrelevant. He was somebody that did stuff his own way. It worked out for him. And although injuries cut his career short, he was, in his prime, one of the most dominant players in NHL history, period. But what I find so fascinating is we're seeing this shift in hockey where in Adam, Pee Wee, every parent believes their kid's going to the NHL. Every parent believes that their kid is better than they actually are. Every parent is battling for ice time. They don't let the coach, or parents that have kids that aren't actually that good at the sport coach that their kids can make teams. But in all of this, I think we're seeing a sense of entitlement at a younger age. I think it's happened in my generation I am a person who is guilty of this. I don't believe that I'm entitled to an awesome job, but I believe I should work in sports because I believe I'm smart enough and good enough to do it. I'm not there yet, but I'm going to keep working towards it. And I do have that sense of I'm going to make it. I'm going to make this work, and maybe I'll crash and burn, and people that doubt me will laugh at me and they'll get the last laugh. But I think in the generation, and also I think this is just the 40 to 45-year-olds, the parents right now, there's this sense of the kid is going to be great. The kid is awesome. The kid can do what he wants. You can buy your way onto a team. You can put a sponsorship, whatever needs to happen for you to get on the team, one way or another, you can make it work. Well, now what we're seeing is college sports versus the CHL. If you've been following me a little bit, you know I have the opinion that college football in the brain, college hockey is going to overtake the CHL as the best route to get to the National Hockey League. It is the best for development. It is the most creative way for you to get better. You're playing against grown men. You're getting an education if you want one, if you go to school. You can play multiple years. You can still play the World Junior Hockey Championships. You can play 1 year of college, 4 years of college. And you're playing against better players. You're in more of a spotlight. The Canadian Hockey League last year had one of its worst years on record when it comes to attendance, when it comes to overall intrigue. If you look at the NHL draft, they did not have a player taken till almost the 20th pick. The CHL is one way of doing it. But to me, college hockey is overtaking it. It is the better route. And it allows this sense of entitlement that I'm talking about, this sense of controlling your own destiny, to rear its ugly head in the National Hockey League. Over the last number of months, Cutter Gauthier, Rutger McGroarty, Yaroslav Askarov all have demanded trades from their respective clubs, and only one of them, and Askarov very briefly, not 10 NHL games of experience, were traded from their respective teams. No NHL experience, nothing to say that you deserve to be traded, nothing to say, okay, I've done some goodwill here. I've done all that we can do. We're going to rebuild. Trade me. I can understand that. To me, that's not a sense of entitlement. That's just you looking at your scenario saying, okay, I'm at this point in my career. I'd like to try to win. You're not going to win here. You get some assets. I go to a better team. Win-win. If we first look at the trade that happened on Thursday, the Winnipeg Jets traded their 2022 first-rounder, 14th overall, Rutger McGroarty, to the Pittsburgh Penguins for their 2023 first-rounder, 14th overall, Brayden Yager. Yager was playing in the Memorial Cup this past year. He is still eligible to play in the Canadian Hockey League next year. McGroarty likely will be coming out of college now after having a very productive season at Michigan. McGroarty was saying, do I want to come out? Well, he wants to go pro. He wants to play professional hockey, but he did not want to play for the Winnipeg Jets. An American who doesn't want to play in Canada. What else is new? Unless you pay him an expert, a crazy amount of money, and you throw a C on his jersey. No offense, Leafs fans. But Rutger McGroarty says, no, I will not be signing. I will not be turning pro as a member of the Winnipeg Jets. He informed the organization. And then Kevin Cheveldayoff actually made this official after the trade, which I find interesting. And the reason I find this interesting, and the reason I guess you have to do it because McGroarty probably would have said it otherwise, is it makes your organization look weak and it makes your organization look undesirable, which it is. Playing in Winnipeg, living in Winnipeg, something I've been doing, looking up different opportunities, looking up different places I could potentially live. There are a lot of jobs in Manitoba, in sports and just in everything, because nobody wants to live there, because the weather is horrible and there's nothing that desirable about Manitoba. If you're from there, I'm sure you'll talk about how great it is, but I'm from Rexton, New Brunswick. I love it this time of year. When it gets to about November, it can take a fucking hike. So McGroarty will not sign with the Jets. They make this official. Winnipeg again looks weak. They lose players like Donald Trump loses voters. It happens all the time. And Rucker McGroarty, good college player, a first rounder of Winnipeg, never played an NHL game, hardly has attended a rookie camp, gets what he wants, will not report. Now, you might say, well, Noah, the Winnipeg Jets had to do this. He's not going to sign with the team. They have to trade him. They don't have to trade him. He still has college years left. Make him play those out. He wants to turn pro that bad? Force his hand. Say, we're not trading you, man. You're our first rounder. We like you a lot. Go to college, keep getting better. We'll see you next year. We'll chat about this when you're heading into your senior season at Michigan. Well, no, of course, they're not going to want to do that. Unless you're Adam Fox. But yes, as a college player, you have rights. And you have options. But you only have those options and you only have that power when your college years are up. When you are going to turn pro. Until that is over, you are property of the Winnipeg Jets. They own your rights. They drafted. You might hate the draft process. It could be improved. I don't like that players don't get control of their life either. But this is the way it works right now. Back in the day when men were drafted to go to war, I'm pretty sure they didn't like it. But guess what? You're going. Wasn't, I got a nosebleed. You're going to war. This is, okay, you get to play professional hockey. You might have to live in Winnipeg. At least you're playing pro hockey, making a good chunk of change. You're not fighting another person. I love this story because I think Kevin Cheveldayoff did a good job in this deal. Because he ends up trading a first rounder for a first rounder. Braden Yager's a much different player than Rucker McGroarty. He's much more skill-based, smaller, skilled player, good player. If you look at his numbers last year, playing in the Canadian Hockey League. If we look up, if I find here we go, Braden Yager. Last season for the Moose Jaw Warriors, played in 57 games, 95 points. Played in 20 playoff games, 27 points. Skilled guy, he's labeled as 6 feet. I don't think he's 6. If he's 6 feet, then I'm 6'1". He's not 6 feet. 5'10", maybe 5'11". But a skilled center. I don't know if he'll play center at the next level. Rucker McGroarty. If you look at him, he's 6'1", 200 pounds, right winger. Michigan, 36 games last year with 52 points. Impressive stuff for the big man, 16 goals, 36 assists. He went from 39 points to 52 in his sophomore season at Michigan. I'd rather have Rucker McGroarty. I think Jaeger's a good prospect. I saw Craig Button say they're both A prospects. He's probably not wrong. Craig knows his stuff. I would say, though, McGroarty's just a bigger player. And yes, Jaeger's a center, but I'd rather have McGroarty because I just think he's better longer term. But I look at this example. I look at Cutter Gauthier. Remember him? Another American. Was drafted by the Philadelphia Flyers and did not want to sign his entry level and turn pro. Never played an NHL game, but he didn't want to sign. And out of the blue, he was traded to the Anaheim Ducks. And it was surprising because you go, Cutter Gauthier, good player. Why would Cutter Gauthier be traded? Well, he wouldn't sign with Philadelphia. He heard stuff, reportedly, from other players he didn't like about the organization. He was traded for Jamie Drysdale and a second rounder in the 2025 draft this coming June. He ends up on the Anaheim Ducks. And I'd say, like Winnipeg, Philly did pretty good in getting a young defenseman and a second-round pick in 2025. When you're thinking you're trading a player who is not signed, you don't have much leverage in that type of deal. Much better than Montreal, who we'll talk about in a minute, with the Columbus deal. But again, Cutter Gauthier, no NHL experience, college player, still playing, was in his sophomore year. You decide to deal him, get rid of the headache, so to speak, because he wasn't even communicating with the organization at the World Junior Hockey Championships, wasn't communicating with them. But he gets dealt. If we're seeing college players have this leverage to be like, no, not signing, not going anywhere, how much longer does it take before active NHLers say, yeah, I'm done here. I'm sick of this. This is a team that I thought about, I keep my eye on. Buffalo Sabres have been bad for almost 15 years. One of the worst organizations in the NHL. Ryan O'Reilly sort of did this in a different way. But if Buffalo keeps losing, despite the fact that I like their young players and I like what they do, but let's say it's Rasmus Dahlin or Owen Power, who are like, hey, Kevin Adams, we still suck. Why do we still? I want to try to win something in my career. We've been on garbage teams since we got in the league. I'm done with Buffalo. Love the people. Bills Mafia, you're great. But the weather is straight garbage. Our team is straight garbage. Trade me to a contender. And even if it's not, you got to trade me to Dallas, or they don't have a specific ask of where they want to go. If it's just, I don't want to be here anymore. That's what the NBA's become. But the NBA is, hey, you're going to trade me to this team. And we've seen very little pushback on that ideal. Damian Lillard not going to the Miami Heat was really an anomaly because James Harden wants to go to Philly. James Harden goes to Philly. Kevin Durant wants to go to Brooklyn. Kevin Durant goes to Brooklyn. Kyrie Irving, yeah, I'd like to pair with Luka. He goes to the Dallas Mavericks. In the NBA, if you are a superstar, even if you're not, you go kind of where you want to go. How much longer does that take to happen in the National Hockey League? where players just go, yeah, peace, check please, I'm out of here. Hockey players are different. That'll never happen. Sure, sure it won't. Tell you, hockey players might be different. You know who's not different? Agents. You know who's not different? Competitive people. And if you're seeing other people in the sports world, if you see a guy like Deshaun Watson, who's a scumbag, get to demand his way anywhere and get record breaking money doing it, then why the hell wouldn't you want to do it? Say, if this sack of shit can do what he wants, I'm going somewhere because I'm sick of being here. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm crazy. I'm not. This is going to happen. It's on the horizon in the National Hockey League. Yaroslav Askarov. We've talked about him on the podcast. Young goaltender. I said I thought Nashville might part with UC Saros. But Nashville had one of the busiest off seasons with Jonathan Marchessault and Steven Stamkos, Brady Shea heading to Music City. And Yaroslav Askarov, Russian goaltender, multiple-time World Junior participant, looked in the mirror and said, Saros is getting an 8-year extension. I'm in my early 20s. I've been playing for the Milwaukee Admirals for the last number of years. I'm sick of the American Hockey League. It's time I get an opportunity to prove that I can be an NHL goaltender. And last week, he demanded a trade. I think Kevin Weeks reported it. And quickly, Barry Trotz, the general manager of the Nashville Predators, comes out and says, we expect Yaroslav to be at training camp and to participate for a roster spot. Okay. there, but we're back. Apologize for the inconvenience, but as I was saying with Askarov, young, talented goaltender, World Junior experience, multiple years with Milwaukee, and looking up his experience, he is now 22, just turned 22 in June, and he's looking around going, Saros is here to stay. He's been in North America since 2022, has played 3 NHL games, played 2 last year, 943 save percentage, 147 goals against. So that's a small sample size. But he's played in over 100 games for Milwaukee. And he just went, I'm done with this. I want an opportunity to be an NHL goaltender. Clearly, it's not going to come in Nashville. I would like another opportunity. And he is getting one. Because despite the fact that Barry Trotz said we expect him to be at camp and we expect him to show up and compete for a job to be the backup goaltender, basically, he was traded to the San Jose Sharks yesterday. In a move where San Jose's been busy over the last number of weeks, they took on Cody Cece's contract from the Edmonton Oilers when they were in a cap crunch. And now they pick up a young goalie who has some upside, and they are one of the worst, they are the worst team in the NHL. So this is the deal. The Nashville Predators have traded goaltender and center prospect Nolan Burke and a third-round pick in 2025 to the San Jose Sharks in exchange for 2025 first-round selection center David Edstrom and goaltender Magnus Sharona. Edstrom, Swedish prospect, big guy, moves well, centerman, who could be, he was an impressive player at the World Juniors this past year. So I like that Nashville gets a first-round prospect back for a first-round pick in Askarov. San Jose really doesn't have a goalie of the future. They have Askarov one more year on his entry level, and they signed him to a 2-year extension yesterday. 2 years times $2 million. So not a huge investment. They will see if he is an NHL goaltender, if he's their goalie of the future moving forward. The next couple of years, the team won't be that great. They do have Macklin Celebrini coming in, but I expect it to be a younger team filled in with some veterans like a Barclay Goodrow, who they got from the New York Rangers in the offseason. So pair him with some younger players, and we'll see what happens. Askarov demands a trade, and he goes somewhere. You might go, okay, they traded him to the worst possible place, San Jose. For him, I completely disagree. I think this is a place where it's an awesome fit for Askarov. He's going to a spot that they don't have an established goalie. He could be their number one goalie this year. He could play 60 games, 50 games, whatever it might be. Yes, while losing a lot, but also proving that he can be an NHL player, proving that that next deal won't be 2 years times $2 million, that it'll be a big chunk of money, that he is a first-round talent. He's their goalie. He's their guy. He gets traded to a better team. He gets traded to, say, a St. Louis. Well, they already have Jordan Binnington. And is he a backup to Binnington? San Jose clearly said, we don't have a goalie. Let's trade for one and see if we can get one for, you give up a first-round pick who you like. But they got picks out the wazoo. They have so many picks coming up because San Jose's terrible, and that's what they're stockpiling. So you lose one, okay, whatever. You just took the first player overall in this draft in Macklin Celebrini. You'll be okay. And you'll be high up in the draft next year because your team's going to stink again. Good chance you pick number 1 overall again in 2025. So all that being said, I like this for San Jose because it is a gamble. You're giving up a first rounder. But if you can get a goalie for $2 million that he's your new guy, he's your number 1, you do it. His height has always been an issue. People look at him and go, he's not big enough. He's not going to be able to play at the NHL. Well, Saros was the guy in front of him in Nashville, and Saros is a small man. And Saros has been in the conversation for the Vezina pretty much every year for the last 5. He's one of the best goalies in the world, period. I don't care how big, how small he is. So I give this kid a chance. I credit the San Jose Sharks for getting him before training camp. Bring him in, give him looks. If he's not ready for the start of the season, send him to the American League. That's fine. Play a month or 2 down there, get some confidence, come up. December or January, end of the season, he's your guy. And you play him a ton. But for Nashville, I think you do right by the player. And also you get a top-end prospect for him, which ultimately is the goal. Barry Trotz has been aggressive. Barry Trotz has been active. And he chose Saros over Askarov. So that might tell you, well, Saros is the better goalie. Which, hard to argue that Askarov will have a better career than UC Saros, because UC Saros has had a pretty damn good one. And I expect Nashville to be a good team this year, a competitive team in the Central Division. But I like the deal for both sides. But again, Askarov demanded a trade, 3 games of NHL experience, and he gets what he wants. Him putting out that he wants to be traded, I think, helped this along. And credit to him and his agent, Dan Milstein, who's one of the best in the business. He gets stuff done for his clients. He has a lot of clients in the league, a lot of high-profile ones. Most of them are Russian. But credit. I like it for both teams. It's an interesting deal. A lot of kind of moving parts. I'm curious to see how it goes down the line for both sides. But Yaroslav Askarov ends up in San Jose, in the Bay Area. Now, all this what we're talking about with players demanding trades, players getting what they want, it's interesting. It's a talking point, certainly. Now, this did happen. You could argue it happened with Patrick Laine, but Columbus also wanted Patrick Laine out of the building. If you don't remember, the last couple of years, it's been kind of ugly for Patrick Laine. He was the 2nd overall pick with Austin Matthews. The debate was, who are you going to pick? There never was a debate. Patrick Laine, while had a little more fanfare because he played at the World Junior Hockey Championships, he won the gold medal. They had an awesome team with Puljujarvi and Sebastian Aho, defeating Canada en route to winning a gold medal, I might add. But since coming into the league, Laine has been more of a curiosity than a finished product. It's what if he put that all together, not he's got it all together. Patrick Laine has been a 40-goal scorer, but Patrick Laine has also been a player that's been addicted to Fortnite, that has been dealing with mental health issues, that's been dealing with, in my opinion, lack of motivation. Winnipeg to Columbus, and now Columbus to the Montreal Canadiens. Patrick Laine has 2 years left on his deal at $8.7 million annually. How the hell he got that after what he's done in his career is beyond me, and credit to his agent for getting that deal done. And I'm going to look up his agent. It might be Dan Milstein. Could be. Agent. I'm just curious. Oh, they don't even say that now. Well, Andy Scott. Andy Scott, way to go. I want to give you your credit. Because getting him $8.7 million after Winnipeg basically said, don't let the door hit you on the way out, and we can't stand you, and Paul Maurice and him and Torts going at it. And yet he's only he's only 26. But if you look at the last couple of years, 2021, 2022, 56 games, 2022, 2023, 55 games, 23, 24, 18 games. He hasn't played over 65 games since 2019. Not available, injuries, whatever it might. Last year, he was put into the player assistance program for mental health. Him and his fiance have started a mental health program, which is great. It's smart. I'm all for that. However, I do think mental health has become a crutch for people. I do think mental health has become an outlet for people to say that's why you're not doing something, why you're not following through on work, why you're not playing all that well. And I'm not saying he doesn't have an issue. I realize this can be a catch-all and this can be, oh, it's so bad, we can't bring this up ever. Well, I will. But he doesn't play. He's got mental health problems. He hated Winnipeg, doesn't like Columbus. They couldn't wait to get rid of him. But Montreal gets him and a 2026 second rounder for Jordan Harris. Depth defenseman, not high profile. We'll make Columbus's team. We'll be one of their 6 defensemen, but he'll be 5 or 6 on that team. But Columbus doesn't retain any of the 8.7 over the next 2 years. That's really why they had to give up a second along with Laine, because nobody really wanted him. Well, they didn't want to retain money because they're cheap and they're not one of these rich franchises that have a bunch of money. So, for Montreal, I don't really get it. I don't understand it. Montreal is in this, a couple teams in Canada that are, we think we know what they want to do, but do we really? The Ottawa Senators, for years at least, outwardly, have put on this front that they want to be competitive. We want to be a playoff team. We want to play with the big boys. We want to at least be in the Toronto category of make the playoffs and then lose every year. Which there's value in that. Because making the playoffs every year, there is value in that. I'm not putting down the Maple Leafs here. They at least want to be in that club. We want to attend. They haven't been able to do that since 2017. So outwardly, you look at it and go, yeah, Ottawa, want to be competitive, want to play with these teams. Okay, cool, interesting. Montreal is in this rebuild. We still got old players, but we want to sort of be competitive. It'd be nice if we were half decent. That's kind of the thought process, at least to me. But I don't know. Montreal is not going to be a great team next year. Montreal will not be a playoff team next year. Montreal's probably hoping for a step up. They're probably hoping to be better than Buffalo, hoping to be competitive with some teams. But if going into the season, if they expect to be a playoff team, they're lying. If that's what they say, I don't think that'll be their mission statement come training camp. But if it is their mission statement, it's a fabrication. Because number one, it's not going to happen. And number one, it's just stupid. But I don't know. It's it's interesting. Cole Caulfield, good young player. Good young player. And that's the operative word. He's not an elite player. He's not a superstar. I don't think he can be the best player on a playoff team, quite frankly. But he's fine. He's a good player. Played all 82 last year for the first time in his career. Had 28 goals, which was a career high. But I think if you ask people in the Montreal locker room, they expected him to score 30, 35 plus. A little more, maybe, potentially. But he's fine. Good player. Nick Suzuki, captain of the team. Will just turned 25. Good player. No doubt about it. Played all 82. 33 goals last year. 77 points. Almost point per. Good player. But. They're not superstars. They're not elite talents. They don't have a great crop of players around them. They're waiting for guys like David Rickenbacker to become NHLers. They're waiting for... They got some young players coming through. Rodion, they have guys that will probably push through. But Laine for 2 years to what? Kind of muck up the power play? Is he going to... Him and Cole Caulfield be on the same power play unit? I don't know if that's going to work. They both don't really like to pass the puck. But we'll see. I don't get it for a team that's not going to be competitive, for a team that's not going to be good over the next 2 years. They get a talented piece that could be something, sure. But again, a lot of teams have said that. A lot of teams have had that outlook going in, and it hasn't worked out for them. So, good luck. Good luck, Montreal. I hope it works out for Laine and hope he's great. But if you're looking for a problem and a solution, he's been more of a problem than he's been a solution over the course of his career. And that's not being mean, that's just the truth. Also this week, going back, I made a prediction last week that the St. Louis Blues, who gave offer sheets to Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway of the Edmonton Oilers, I predicted that the Edmonton Oilers would match the offer sheet of Philip Broberg at almost $5 million a season for 2 years. Because I thought he was too important to their defense core, and they wouldn't want to lose him. I was wrong. They didn't match either of them. They traded Cody Ceci to the Sharks in a salary dump move, and they let both players walk heading to St. Louis. With the Ceci move and with both players gone, they are now under the salary cap. It looks like Evander Kane's going to start the season on LTIR, so it does give them some flexibility. I understand why they didn't match, but I do think they'll regret not keeping Broberg. And if you look at it, you lose Broberg and you lose Ceci. That's two defensemen that were in your top six in the Stanley Cup final. And that was just late June. So 2 months ago, they're part of your team. You're game 7, nearly winning the Stanley Cup. Good on St. Louis. Doug Armstrong said he'd do this to his mother if it thought it could help him win. 100%. Offer sheets are there. Players are not signed. Do what you got to do. There's an interesting scenario in Boston where Jeremy Swayman, an RFA, remains unsigned. He might go into training camp without a new contract. Reportedly, the two are very far apart in negotiations. Boston traded Linus Ullmark to Ottawa earlier in the offseason. Swayman's really important to them. Swayman is their goalie. They don't have another option. They need to make it work with him. I don't know what happens if they can't. Boston's in this transition where they want to remain competitive. Well, you're not going to remain competitive without Jeremy Swayman. He's quietly become one of the better goaltenders in the National Hockey League. So it's another guy that teams could offer sheet. If a team's like, hey, let's screw Boston, they can't match this. Let's give him a big contract. Okay, we have to give up draft picks. If we've got the draft picks, you could do it. But there's intrigue there. Possibilities. You never know. Other news, Matty Beniers, the first draft pick of the Seattle Kraken, signed a 7-year contract extension with the club at $7.14 million per season. Seattle's a team that doesn't have a whole lot of talent. They have good, hardworking players. Has had his ups and downs in his NHL career so far. So I understand it. They're looking to looking to keep talent in-house, looking to remain competitive. I get it. It's a lot of money for what he's done so far in his NHL career, but they're rolling the dice. I don't hate it. I think Matty Beniers is a good player. He's won the Calder Trophy. I like keeping your talent as well. We'll see what happens. August 24th, training camps will be opening soon. Like I said, Jeremy Swayman remains unsigned, so there's still business that could be happening. A lot of players. I saw Sammy Blais got a PTO with the Vancouver Canucks camp. So I think there'll still be some players who go to training camps on PTOs. Matt Martin, Cloud Clutterbuck remain unsigned out there. So Eric Stahl retired earlier in the offseason. But I'm sure there'll be players who get an opportunity. If you look at NHL free agents right now, of guys who played last year could attend training camps. I know Nick Cousins is one of them. Stanley Cup champion with the Florida Panthers, doesn't have a contract. Which, he isn't a bad player. If I go down the list here, a lot of these guys have been. Joe Pavelski retired. Ryan Suter did get a deal. Cam Atkinson sounds like he's going to retire. Anthony Duclair went to the Islanders, had to shave his head. Fuck you, Lou Lamoriello. Barabanov, I believe, still a free agent. Daniel Sprong, good. Has bounced around. I think he brings value. Signed with the Canucks on a 1-year deal. But Nick Cousins out there, Stanley Cup champion. I'm sure he will get a PTO somewhere to go to training camp because he's a fourth liner that can bring some value, bring some spunk, bring some tenacity to a lineup if you're looking for that. Let's pivot to baseball. We have a little over a month left in the MLB season. And since the All-Star break, some great stories. Diamondbacks, Padres continue to play great baseball. Diamondbacks crushing the Red Sox 12-2 last night at Fenway. So you have those stories. You see the Seattle Mariners fire their manager after a horrible second half of the season. They were multiple people's pick to win the World Series. They were the hot team going in, and all of a sudden now they're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to win the AL West. The Astros are firmly in control heading into September, and it's just ugly for Seattle. They make moves at the deadline. They don't work, so ugly scene for them. But really, the two big stories in baseball right now are Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani. And that's a good thing. Probably the two biggest stars in the sport. Ohtani, one of the biggest stars just worldwide, any sport. Aaron Judge hit his 49th home run last night against the Colorado Rockies. He's hit 12 home runs in the month of August, and we still have a week left. And he's playing the Rockies again, and gets to play at Yankee Stadium. Short porch to left. But what he's chasing the Triple Crown. He's going to win another MVP in the American League. And just this season for him, you look at his numbers. He's batting .333. There's only 14 players in Major League Baseball batting over .270 this season. 14. That's a fact. Batting .333, .464 on base percentage, 49 homers, 119 ribbies, 88 walks. He might win the Triple Crown. Bobby Witt Jr. is trying to keep that from him with average. Incredible stuff. But you got to tune into Yankees games because you just want to see Aaron Judge. You want to see Soto and Judge's at-bats. After that, you can turn it off. Because the Yankees aren't that threatening, but they have two of the best players in baseball, and they're both playing phenomenal right now. Juan Soto is probably going to hit 45 home runs. Aaron Judge is going to hit 60+. I think he'll hit more than 62, which he did 2 years ago when he tied Roger Maris for most homers in Yankee history. But this season's been better because his team isn't that good. You got DJ LeMahieu and Gleyber Torres and a bunch of guys below him that you're just like, okay, let's pitch around Judge. You really can't. Or teams aren't doing it because you have Soto before him in the lineup. If Gleyber Torres could keep hitting the way he is with Soto and with Judge, this team could be threatening. I still don't love their staff, and I think the rest of their bats are very average. Austin Wells has his moments. But I don't believe there's a great team in the American League. There isn't. The Guardians are a good team, but they haven't played that well post-All-Star break. You look at Houston. Houston are as threatening as anybody because they've been there before. They've done it. They can beat anybody. Baltimore is kind of like the Yankees, where I don't love their pitching staff at all. They have a lot of things you like about them. You like that Anthony Santander is having a fantastic season, 38 home runs. He's going to hit 40+ this year. Gunnar Henderson, phenomenal. Adley Rutschman, love it. Corbin Burns was good until August. But pitching up and down, they need to out-hit their problems, which is hard to do come postseason time. That's something they couldn't do last year. Kansas City could be threatening. You never know. They're hot. They've surpassed Minnesota in the wild card standings. So still a lot to be decided, but you're watching and you're going, the Yankees could get to the World Series because Aaron Judge is the best player in baseball. And why not? Why couldn't he do it? He could do it easily. Then you have Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani has 40 home runs and 40 stolen bases on the season. He's not going to win the Triple Crown because his average has gone to hell. He's not batting 300, but he's batting over 270, one of 14 guys. But he's the fastest player in Major League Baseball history to get to 40 home runs and 40 stolen bases. 126 games, Alfonso Soriano was at 147 when he did it. Now the thought process is, with a little over a month left, can Ohtani go for 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases? Nobody's ever done it in the history of baseball. He could. He's that special. He's a unicorn. He is incredibly interesting. You don't know much about him, the translator problems and things like that, but he's pushed that all to the side. Seems to love the fact that he's playing in meaningful games in August. Hits a walk-off grand slam last night at Chavez Ravine to get the Dodgers a win over the Tampa Bay Rays. Both guys have been phenomenal. Dodgers and Yankees have had fantastic Augusts. Dodgers have had to play fantastic baseball because the Diamondbacks and the Padres have the two best records post-All-Star break of any teams in baseball. And the Dodgers still only have a 4-game lead on the Diamondbacks and 4.5 on the Padres. But they've taken advantage of, they swept the Mariners. They're playing the Rays this weekend. 4 games out, the Orioles this week, and then they go to Arizona for 4 next weekend in a massive series. They play the Padres once before the season's over. But Ohtani and Judge are the stories of baseball, what they're doing, what they're trying to achieve. Yankees and Dodgers both leading their respective divisions. That's awesome. Baseball loves that. But 50 and 50, that would be something special. If Judge can hit the Triple Crown in the American League with Juan Soto as one of his teammates, and yet he still does it, that's something crazy. Also this week, Joey Votto, one of the most colorful, one of the most interesting, and you could argue the greatest Canadian baseball player ever, retired on Wednesday. He retired technically as a member of the Toronto Blue Jays, signed a minor league deal in the offseason, wanted to play, suffered an ankle injury in a spring training game, and never got back to the big leagues. Released a statement on Twitter just saying, "I'm not good anymore. I can't do it." I love the way he went about it. It was so Joey Votto. It was so just honest. And he wasn't anymore. He wasn't the Joey Votto of old that was winning MVP and that was incredible to watch. But I think he should be an analyst. If I was Sportsnet, I'm trying to hire him because they have the rights. That's why I'm saying that. If I'm ESPN, I'd want to hire him. Sunday Night Baseball, whatever it might be, Fox. You're telling me get Big Poppy off there and put on. I'd rather have Joey Votto over him, over A-Rod, Jeter. They all stink, if you ask me. Nothing interesting. Ortiz played in Boston for that. He still really can't speak English all that well. No offense, Poppy. But that panel sucks. Yes, it's full of guys that are better than Joey Votto. But that just because you're better than Joey Votto doesn't mean you should be on TV. It doesn't mean you're any good at TV, quite frankly. So, all that being said, fantastic career. Will be a bubble Hall of Fame candidate. I don't know if he'll get in, but I think there'll be discussions about him. 17 years, great career, MVP. But Joey Votto, one of the great Canadians, one of the best interviews in sports. He was on Dan Patrick yesterday. It was phenomenal. I encourage you to go check it out. Love Joey Votto. I think we'll see more of him in the media. Quickly to the NFL. Training camps. Well, training camps are winding down. Preseason wraps up Sunday night. Still some stuff to uncover here. Patriots have not named their starting quarterback. They play tomorrow night in the final preseason game against the Commanders. Jacoby Brissett will start. Drake May will also play. Drake May, quite frankly, has looked better in the preseason than Jacoby Brissett. I think Jacoby Brissett will start the season as the Patriots starting quarterback, but I do think we'll see Drake May sometime in 2024, 2025. The Patriots are not a good team. We know this. But I think he'll play. It just won't be right away, which is fine, if you ask me. But we'll see both of them tomorrow night, and that game's on NBC, I believe, tomorrow night, between the Patriots and the Commanders. Speaking of Commanders, Jaden Daniels, second overall pick, rookie quarterback, Arizona State / LSU alum, was named the starting quarterback of the Commanders by Dan Quinn this week. Bo Nix, also a first-rounder, Oregon, and Auburn was named starting quarterback of the Denver Broncos by Sean Payton. So those two rookie quarterbacks alongside Caleb Williams will be starting the season as QB1s. We obviously know J.J. McCarthy will not because of his torn meniscus. He's out for the season for the Minnesota Vikings. Drake May still in the mix, as I just said, so some rookie quarterbacks will be starting the season. Really going into it is who's going to win that job in New England? That's a talking point. And there's still contract stuff being ironed out. Jamar Chase wants a new deal with the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati's in this year where I think it's going to be the last year of Higgins, Chase, and Burrow together. They can't afford them all anymore. If they want to build a team that has good talent, you really can't. Well, Jamar Chase hasn't been practicing. He hasn't played in the preseason. There's been reports that multiple people believe he will not be stepping on a field this season without a new contract. And knowing Cincinnati, they don't like to do this. Technically, they don't have to. He's got a couple years left on his contract, 1 year, and then the 5th-year option because he's a first-round pick. So they don't have to do it, but Jamar Chase is saying he wants it. We'll see what happens. Brandon Ayuk, the ongoing saga. Reportedly, there's a trade for Pittsburgh that's on the table. That's a done deal. But the 49ers want to iron out a long-term deal with Ayuk. The season starts for the 49ers 2 weeks Monday. It'd be nice to have him in your lineup. It'd be nice to know what you're doing so that players know. Deebo Samuel is great. George Kittle, Ricky Pearsall, their first-round pick at wide receiver out of the University of Florida. But Brandon Ayuk's special. He could be their wide receiver one. He was last year. Nothing new. Also, Trent Williams has not participated in training camp. He wants a new deal. Big Trent Williams, he's so important to that team. But also, you look up and go, Trent Williams, we love him. Yes, he's our favorite. He's 36 years old. Do you really want to give him a new contract? Not really. That's an old left tackle. Is his body going to hold up? How much longer can he play? Kyle Shanahan this week talked about it a little bit. I've had some contact with him. It's been good talking to him. Well, that's really insightful. We're negotiating hard. Hopefully it's getting close. I got to tell you, that's awesome. Interesting stuff. He's set to make $20 million this year, Trent Williams. Tristan Wirfs became the top paid offensive tackle in the NFL this offseason with an annual salary of $28.125 million. Penei Sewell of the Detroit Lions makes $28, and Christian Darrisaw makes $26 million. I get it. Trent Williams probably saying, even at 36, I'm better than any one of those guys, which I don't disagree with him. But the 49ers also can go, hey, you're 36 years old, buddy. How much longer you want to play? How much longer are you going to play? How much longer before your body breaks down? So there's interesting there. And then there's also the Dallas Cowboys, who are always in the news. They haven't signed CeeDee Lamb. They open their season 2 weeks tomorrow against the Cleveland Browns. The Cowboys are not a great team. If anybody tells you they're a great team going into this season, they're fucking nuts. Dak needs a new contract. He doesn't have one. They have Ezekiel Elliott back on the team. That's awesome. That's so interesting. It's amazing. At his age that he's brought back into Dallas, I'm sure he'll be extremely productive there. But they moved out some older pieces, but they need they need new players. They need CeeDee Lamb if they're going to be a good team, just period. But it doesn't sound like the two sides are close. CeeDee Lamb has not participated in training camp because he's on a rookie deal. He does not get fined for not being at training camp. And I do think they'll come to a deal before the start of the season because the Cowboys, at the end of the day, despite the fact that they're likely angry that they have to do this, that they're going through this, they know they're not winning anything without him. They know he's incredibly valuable. And they know that, honestly, he's their best player. So, just some things to think about moving forward with the NFL. Just a lot of contract stuff that needs to be ironed out with really important players to those specific teams. But season starts September 5th. As I mentioned, starting tomorrow on the podcast, I will be doing 4 different divisional preview shows of respective divisions. I will open with the AFC East and NFC East, so I will be talking about those same Cowboys tomorrow on the podcast. We'll be going through them all. Fun series. I love doing them, doing the research. So that will be tomorrow. And then also later in the week, I'll be doing a smaller college football preview show. Technically, college football does begin today. I have College Game Day on in the background. But Thursday night, there are a number of games in college football. So the slate really starts Thursday for college football. And by the way, Florida State is a 10-point favorite today against the Yellow Jackets in Dublin. I like Florida State. I take them. Lay the points. Florida State minus 10. UFC. A lot happening since we last spoke. There was a pay-per-view. Dricus du Plessis defeated Israel Adesanya in a very entertaining fight. Dricus submitting Israel in the 4th round via rear naked choke. His first title defense. It was impressive. I thought Israel fought really well. Israel did some good things in that fight, fighting at distance. Lost his step a little bit, and Dricus took advantage. But that can happen. That fight could have went either way. I don't think Dricus. I don't think Israel is over the hill. I don't think he's washed up. I think he can compete with anybody in the middleweight division. I think we see him come back. There's interesting fights for him. If you look at if Sean Strickland fights, becomes champion, there is an option there. I'm not saying the UFC will do it, but there is the possibility to go, okay, well, Sean versus Izzy. Let's run it back for the title. Look at Israel and go, fight one of these up-and-comers. Fight one of them and prove that you can beat them. Fight a Nasruddin Imavov, who's a rising star in the middleweight division. Fight a Hamzat Chimaev if he beats Robert Whittaker at UFC 308. Fight a Kai Belhario, who's fighting, we'll talk about that, who's fighting tonight in the main event at UFC Vegas 96. Or you can move up to light heavyweight, where Alex Pereira is the champion. Maybe a fight against, I heard people talk about Yuri Prohaska, which would be fun. They're both under the same kind of management, the chosen few. So that's probably a no. But again, there's options for him if he wants them, if he wants to keep fighting. I think he does. So that fight will likely, and it sounds like Sean Strickland's going to be the next guy for Dricus. They obviously fought back in January. I think they will fight early next year, January or February, a rematch for the middleweight title. Because if you look at the rest of the year, you got the card coming up at the Sphere on September 14th, which the Sugar Show. We had UFC 307 announced, which is in Utah. Alex Pereira in the main event, fighting for the 3rd time this year, defending his belt against Khalil Roundtree Jr., who's a dangerous striker, big, massive guy. I think it's a really fun fight. Magomed Ankalaev was upset he didn't get. I understand it. But I also think that they made the best fight. I also think they booked the fight that's the most interesting. Pereira Roundtree is going to be a striker's delight, and I'm fine with it. Alex has fought the fact that people are calling him chicken shit, oh, you're taking this, you're asking to fight Dricus at 185. The dude's just a stone cold champion. He's a warrior. He'll fight anybody, anytime. That's who he is. Also on that card in Utah, you got Raquel Pennington, the women's bantamweight champion, defending her title for the first time against Juliana Pena, the former champion. Good co-main event. It could not be the main event. It doesn't have the juice for it, but for a co-main event slot, there is history. Both these women were on The Ultimate Fighter back in the day, the same season. Juliana won that season. Juliana obviously has a win against Amanda Nunes under her belt, so we'll see what she can do against Raquel Pennington. Also on the card, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson against Joaquin Buckley in the welterweight division. Joaquin's been on a run, beating some good guys. This is by far his toughest competitor to date. Wonderboy's been a ranked welterweight competitor for a long time, but at 41 years old, can he get back in the win column? We'll see. Wonderboy is a legend of the game, very tough fighter. We'll see. Good fight. Jose Aldo, another legend, fighting Mario Bautista. Jose Aldo has re-signed with the UFC, so this is his second fight back after coming back, him fighting in Rio back in May. Roman Dolidze, who defeated Anthony Smith back at UFC 303, he gets Kevin Holland, this time at 185 pounds. So, supposed to be Kevin Holland against Chris Curtis. Dolidze is Chris Curtis's teammate at Extreme Couture, so he steps in, he gets Kevin Holland. You have Aljamain Sterling against Movsar Evelev. This is becoming a personal fight between these two. Two great grapplers, should be fun. And Caitlin Vieira against Kayla Harrison, also on the card. Kayla Harrison with a win, I think will be next for either Pennington or Juliana Pena. So smart to have her on the card. So that's 307. 308 is in Abu Dhabi, where you have Ilya Taporia fighting Max Holloway in the main event. Yes, 308. 309 is in New York with John Jones fighting Stipe Miocic. The two legends could possibly be the final fight for both guys. And then UFC 310 will be in December, the final pay-per-view of 2024. And it's kind of up in the air. Conor McGregor wants to fight on the card, reportedly, but we don't know. But also, you have a guy like Bilal Muhammad, who won the welterweight title back in late July, saying, if the UFC wants me on that December card, I want to be on it. I will fight Shavkat Rakhmonov. I'll defend my title against anybody, him or Kamaru Usman, doesn't matter. So the UFC has good options towards the end of the year for that December card. If they want to put McGregor on it, if they want to save McGregor for next year, that's always a possibility as well. But that card will be in Las Vegas, so they do like having Conor fight in Vegas. But that's coming up tonight. UFC Vegas 96 at the Apex. This is a good Apex card. The next two Apex cards, you have a card tonight, no UFC next weekend, then you have September 7th, another Apex card before the Sphere. Two solid cards, if you ask me. Main event tonight, you have Jared Cannonier, former middleweight contender, fought Israel Adesanya back in the day for the middleweight title. He's now 40 years old, wants to remain in the mix, and he gets a tough up-and-comer in Kai Borralho. Borralho is 12-1. He can beat you with striking. He's good on the ground. I'm curious. Jared's a power puncher. He is strong, but Kai is interesting. He's so big for 185 pounds. He's a minus 230 favorite going into tonight. You can get Jared Cannonier at plus 190. I like Jared. Good fighter, tough customer. But I look at Kai, he's younger, fresher, extremely confident, and he will leap into the top 5 with a win tonight. I think he's going to get it. I have Kai Borralho getting the biggest win of his career and leaping into the middleweight top 5. This will be the type of win for him like it was for Dan Hooker last weekend when he beat Mateus Gamrot at UFC 305. Co-main event, you have Angela Hill fighting Tabitha Ricci in the women's flyweight division. Tough one. Minus 110 both. It's a pick'em fight. Tabitha Ricci, number 9. Tabitha Ricci, number 11. Angela Hill, number 9. Angela Hill, another woman who's 40 years old, has been in the game a long time. Tough customer. Tabitha Ricci's been up and down. She's a striker. I wouldn't call her a great striker. Angela Hill has more ways that she can beat you. Angela Hill is also just a longer, rangier fighter. I have the veteran Angela Hill picking up another win, fighting off a contender tonight, and getting her, I believe it will be her third straight victory for Angela Hill. The next two fights are the Ultimate Fighter finales, which I watch The Ultimate Fighter because I'm a sicko, and I love watching Dana White's Contender Series. You have Ryan Loder versus Robert Valentine in the middleweight division. Ryan Loder is a Division I wrestler, really good. He fights with Uriah Faber in Sacramento, a Team Alpha male. Robert Valentine's from Switzerland, but he fights out of Thailand, and he's very much like Norse mythology, victory or Valhalla. That's his mentality. Minus 172 for Robert, plus 140 for Ryan. That's a good number for Ryan Loder, who, if he can get Robert to the ground, that could be a problem. And I think that's the biggest weakness of Robert Valentine is his ground game. I'm still going to take Robert to win this fight. I'm going to take him to win via TKO. But if you want to take a shot in the dark with Ryan Loder, I don't hate it. Con Offley versus Myron Santos at 145 pounds. Myron Santos is a minus 192 favorite. I don't get it personally. To me, Con Offley is the pick at plus 154. I'm taking the underdog outright. To me, he's the better fighter. He has an easier time making the weight. Myron Santos, tough weight cuts every time on the Ultimate Fighter. I think Con Offley is he's got more ways that he can win as well. I expect him to get the finish tonight. Michael Morales versus Neil Magny. Neil Magny, the gatekeeper of the welterweight division, fights off new customers. Michael Morales is undefeated, 25 years old. He's a minus 850 favorite going into tonight. Neil Magny pulled off an upset back in January when he beat a Canadian who wanted to become a ranked fighter the first time. In the third round, got rid of him. I don't think that's going to happen tonight. Michael Morales is a better fighter. Michael Morales, young, knows what he's doing. I don't know if he'll finish Neil Magny because Michael Morales has not been a guy that's been finishing people, but he doesn't lose. He gets in there, gets a job done, wins via points. Neil Magny's as tough as they come. This is a good fight, but I got Michael Morales becoming 17-0 tonight with a victory. And then the final fight of the main card, Edmund Shabazian against Gerald Meerschaert. Two guys who don't mind taking the fight to the ground. Shabazian minus 300, Meerschaert plus 235. Meerschaert is a jiu-jitsu legend, awesome on the ground, has 8 different submissions that he's done on opponents. He's been in the fight game a long, long time. I have Meerschaert plus 235 getting the victory tonight against Edmund Shabazian at UFC Vegas 96. We have the Ultimate Fighter finales. It's a solid card, good fights. The main event's interesting. So, looking forward to watching that tonight. Looking forward to watching college football this afternoon, catching up on some NFL preseason as well, and always keeping an eye on baseball. So, great to be back this morning. We'll be talking to you all tomorrow when we start going over the divisional previews for the NFL, so keep your eyes and ears locked into that. So I'll talk to you all tomorrow. Have a great Saturday. Till next time, I'm Noah Warren, and this is To The Point.